Hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. We're behind the scenes today at Live on Purpose Radio, and I'm inviting our YouTube family to join us here today because, because I wanted to, and because I love you guys. I want you to be part of this. We're talking about positive parenting solutions. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube, the podcast Live on Purpose Radio is a podcast that I've been doing since 2007. That's before podcasting was even a thing. And it's mostly about personal development, positive psychology. I interview a lot of authors and speakers and thought leaders over there at Live on Purpose Radio. And I would invite you to go take a look at that if you're unfamiliar with the podcast. I do a little behind the scenes feature for our members at Live on Purpose Central. And I thought today, why not just include the YouTube family in that? So you get to listen in as I record an episode for Live on Purpose Radio. And the way this works is we'll go podcast mode here in just a moment. And you'll hear me do the administrative stuff that's required for David to go turn this into an actual episode of Live on Purpose Radio. And then at the end, after we wrap up, stick around. I'll do a little bonus material just for all of our friends here behind the scenes. So our YouTube family today gets to join our behind the scenes family at Live on Purpose Central for this episode. All right, let's jump in, shall we? Here we go. This is Live on Purpose Radio, episode 647, Positive Parenting Solutions. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live on Purpose Radio. This is Dr. Paul, the shrink, who expands your life with another episode of Live on Purpose Radio. Today, we're talking about positive parenting solutions, and you get 5 tips today for a peaceful mind. Are you ready for some positive parenting solutions? Parenting is challenging, but these tips can help you to manage your stress and actually find some peace. Let me give you a little background first, because I don't always talk about parenting here at Live on Purpose Radio. The podcast is mostly about personal development and positive psychology. But I've noticed something. Parenting is the number one personal development program on the planet. I mean, where else do you get auto enrollment? Lots of opportunities to practice, huge rewards and benefits for success. It's an amazing personal development program. So stick around. I've got something right at the end that I think is going to help relieve some stress immediately. But let's jump into those 5 tips, shall we? Tip number 1, turn on your metacognition. Now, if you haven't heard that word before, don't worry about it. It's a made-up word. And you already know that we make up words in psychology. It makes us feel smart. And this is one of them. When you break it down, cognition means thinking. Metacognition is a higher level. It's thinking about thinking. I love that my job as a psychologist is to illuminate the obvious. And this is so cool because I get paid to tell people things they already know. And this is one of those. I call things to your attention that are obvious, but unnoticed until I call them to your attention. Okay, like the feeling of your shirt. Do you notice it now? Well, now that I've mentioned it, it's obvious, but unnoticed until I call it to your attention. Many of the processes that go on in our own mind are in that realm. They're obvious once they're called to your attention, but unnoticed until that point. So, tip number 1 for positive parenting is to turn on your metacognition. That's a powerful exercise. Okay, so now that you're thinking about your thinking, I invite you to think about how you think about your kids. And I invite you to think stage, not age. This is where many parents go wrong. And so this is our second strategy. The second tip that I'm sharing with you is that you think stage, not age. For those of you who are familiar with my positive parenting programs, you'll know that I always start with plotting control against maturity. And there's a visual model for this. If you go to drpauljenkins.com/stages, you'll get a copy of the model. And I'm showing those of you who are following along on the video, you'll see the model in my hand here. The basic model is this: the more mature you are, the more control you get to have over your own life. So you think about a little baby, for example, they're not very mature. And so they don't get to have very much control over their own life, do they? Well, what about an adult? Well, adults have a whole lot more control than babies do. But when I said think stage, not age, here's what I would invite you to consider. If we break this up into 3 stages, and we'll do that just to keep it simple. 3 stages. Stage 1 is the least mature. Stage 2 is kind of middle of the road. And stage 3 is the most mature. Kids at different ages could be at different stages of moral development. This is really important because a lot of parents end up feeling frustrated, which causes them to yell at their kids or do other things that are not that helpful. Pardon me, I apologize for the cough, but I am just getting over a cold, and so I'll have David edit that little piece out for the actual podcast. You guys who are behind the scenes, you get the whole show. Okay, so picking up where we left off. Stage 1 is characterized by being selfish and self-centered, demanding. At stage 1, we fight to get what we want. We are not interested in cooperating. We are demanding and manipulative and entitled. At stage 1, we throw tantrums. We scream and holler a lot. Okay, there's a lot of noise at stage 1. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Now let's move on to stage 2. At stage 2, we stop fighting and start cooperating. Stage 2, we don't want any trouble. We want to keep the peace. And so we go along with reasonable requests and we try to work out a win-win solution. It's about compromise and negotiation. At stage 3, now this is the highest stage, it's all about morals and values. And basically at stage 3, we do the right things for the right reasons. Do you see that that's a much higher level of maturity? When it comes to parenting, it's all about identifying correctly what stage our kids are in. Because if our kids are in stage 1 and they're not even cooperating with us, the only thing that really works is consequences. And we work with parents all the time in our parent coaching programs to come up with consequences that do not require cooperation. This is another resource that I can offer to you. If you go to drpauljenkins.com, that's spelled with a DR, pauljenkins.com, and do a little /consequences, I'll give you a little worksheet that helps you to identify consequences that don't require cooperation. It's the only thing that works when our kids are on stage 1, regardless of what age they are. So if you've got a 15-year-old who is totally refusing to cooperate, you get to choose some consequences that don't require cooperation, because those don't even kick in till stage 2. Now, if our kids are on stage 2, we can use the kind of consequences that require cooperation. Well, like what? Like an essay about what rule I broke, who it hurt, and what my commitment is moving forward. Okay, now, if your kid's on stage 1, they're not going to write an essay. And so you have to pick other consequences, like what they have access to. And that's why I provide that little list for you. drpauljenkins.com/consequences will take you right to it. Okay, now let's go to stage 3. And I'm doing just a quick overview here on the podcast today because we go into detail on this in our parenting programs and seminars. I'll give you, like I said, I'll give you a way to connect to that here before we wrap up today. But just as the overview, stage 3 is all about morals and responsibility. And so you as a parent don't have to do very much. In fact, your main job at stage 3 is to consult. You provide consultation for them. So stage 1, consequences. Stage 2, consequences that require cooperation and communication. Stage 3, consultation. Now, I've given you a quick overview of why stage, not age, is the most important consideration when it comes to positive parenting. You get to be really good at identifying what stage your kids are on, and then that will inform what you do as a parent. Okay, now I promised you 5 tips for a peaceful mind, okay? There are some questions that come up, all right? And I'm going to put the next 3 tips in the context of some of the common questions that I get from parents like you. Here's the next one. And this is for tip number 3. How can I stay calm and patient when my kids push my buttons? You know, our number 1 video on our YouTube channel right now is how to get kids to listen without yelling. Now think about that title for a minute, how to get kids to listen without yelling. There's a lot of parents out there who are feeling frustrated because their kids do things that get them to lose control. And we lose our cool and we end up yelling and screaming. And I don't know a parent who is proud of that. So this question, how can I stay calm and patient when my kids push my buttons? Here's the tip. Think, not fight. I'll say that again. Think, not fight. Imagine for just a minute that I put your kids up to it. Okay? And this changes the game. Think about it. If I were to contact your teenager and say, hey, how would you like to make a quick $100? And your teenager is like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd say, all you have to do is get your mom or your dad to lose their cool. Can you do that? And your teen, I guarantee, would tell me, oh yeah, I can totally do that. I know how to push those buttons, right? And I'm like, awesome. If you can do it, I'll give you $100. And then maybe I've got a bet going with you at the same time, you know, that you can't keep your cool. Well, if your kid's working for me, what does that change? Think about that for a minute. If you knew that I put your kid up to it, to push your buttons, that they're working in cahoots with Dr. Paul, what would that change for you? And it changes, doesn't it? You no longer are going to respond in the same way. So how can I stay calm and patient when my kids push my buttons? By thinking differently. It's not about whether your kid's pushing your buttons or not. It's about what you're thinking. Because if you knew I put it up to them, you'd be like, oh, yeah, whatever. Not today. I am not going to buy into that. Okay. So that's just a mental tool that you can use to understand that it's all about how you think. When I started the episode today, I mentioned that parenting is the number one personal development program on the planet. And this is why you get to learn at some point that this is about your own thinking. It's not about your kid's behavior. That's simply the weather report. It's about what you think about it. Another quick little example of this early in my career, well, it was before I had even started my career, still while I was in school. I got to work at the hospital on 4 different psychiatric units. I was a psych tech. This is the bottom rung on the nursing staff. Okay. I was doing all of the grunt work and all the things that the nurses didn't want to do, they would assign me to do. And I learned a lot there, but I got to deal with psychiatric patients day in and day out, ranging from children to teens to adults. And they all had their strategies that they were using to push people's buttons. But as an employee of the hospital, I never took it personally. They could say whatever they wanted to me, and I'm just like, well, that's part of the job, right? The problem is not what they say. It's whether I take it personally or not. I hope you can see from that example that there might be some hope for you as you work with your kids. Can you keep your cool while your kids are trying to push your buttons? Yes, you can. And it's going to take some personal development to get there. Okay, let's get to tip number 4. Again, I'm going to put this in the context of a question that I get. What are some quick ways to de-stress during a busy day of parenting? Excellent question, because your level of stress has a whole lot to do with how you show up for your kids. I'm going to give you 2. Breathe and ground. Now, here's what I mean. You're busy, so lengthy routines are not going to fly. You need something that you can do on the fly quickly in just a few minutes. Square breathing is one of the techniques that I teach my clients in our parenting classes. And that is where, by square, I mean, to think of a square that has these 4 equal sides to it. Okay. And the first side is the inhale. You inhale through your nose as you count to 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Then hold, 2, 3, 4. Then exhale, 2, 3, 4. Then hold, 2, 3, 4. All right, so square breathing, you inhale for 4 counts through your nose, hold for 4 counts, exhale through your mouth. I didn't specify that earlier, for 4 counts, and then hold for 4 counts before the next inhale. That's called square breathing. And it's a quick way to reset some things in your own mind that will help to counteract that stress. Now, let's talk about grounding. And you can do these 2 things together, by the way. Grounding has to do with getting your feet on the ground for even just a couple of minutes will make a difference. And I don't mean artificial ground. I don't mean the floor. I don't mean the pavement or the concrete. I mean the dirt, the sand, the grass, okay, something natural of the earth. I don't know all the reasons this works, and I've heard a lot of theories. I do know that energetically, and in terms of our connection with the earth and the elements and the electricity that runs our very neurons, that this helps. So get your feet and take your shoes off. Get your feet on the ground for 2 to 3 minutes a day. even that little. Now, if you can do more like 10 or 15, that's awesome. Do it while you're breathing. You're going to notice that this is a quick way to de-stress during your day. And it's not just about parenting. This could be whatever you're up to. Okay, let's go on to number 5. And here's the question that brings this tip about. How can I balance my own needs with my kids' demands without feeling guilty? I just came back from a trip with my granddaughter. Vicky and I are doing a little tradition where we take our 10-year-old grandkids, the year they turn 10, we take them on a little trip with Grammy and Grampy. And we just did our first one last week. And it involved an airplane. Now, when you notice, when you get on an airplane, they go through the safety routine, right? And in case you've been in a coma for 20 years, they show you how to fasten a seatbelt. But there's a part in the demonstration where they say, if we ever lose cabin pressure, these masks will fall from the ceiling. You know the one, right? That part. And you're supposed to fasten it on with a little rubber band. They always say this. If you're traveling with young children or someone who needs assistance, put your own mask on first. This is a necessity. Self-care is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And one of the best things that you can do for your kids, if you do not take care of yourself, then you become part of the problem. You're just in the way now. And think about it. When you end up yelling and screaming at your kids, how are you doing? Personally, yeah, you're stressed. You're wiped out. Taking care of yourself is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's one you get to learn how to do. And one of the most common errors people make here, they think it means, well, I need to take time to go to the spa or get my nails done or something, take a vacation. Yeah, that's all great. But the most important thing you can do about self-care is the dialogue, the thoughts, the words that you say to yourself. That's the place where we could use the most help most of the time. So when I say take care of yourself, put your own mask on first. This is our final strategy that I'm going to share with you today. And I've still got a resource for you, so hang on. Watch what you're doing internally. What kind of dialogue is happening? If I talk to you the way you talk to you, would we still be friends? Chances are you get pretty harsh sometimes with that. Another reason to pay attention to your personal development. Do your work. Okay, you ready for that next step? You don't have to do this alone. I've put together a free masterclass for parents. This comes from my history working with children, adolescents, and parents for all of my career. I've put together a masterclass for you. It's called How to Get Your Kids to Listen Without Yelling. Are you tired of yelling? Come jump in with us. And you can get there. I've set up a special link just for listeners of the podcast, liveonpurposeradio.com. That's the name of the podcast, liveonpurposeradio.com. That's all one word. And then do a / stop yelling. Also one word. Okay, don't put a space in between. This is how computers do things. So once again, liveonpurposeradio.com / stop yelling. And I'm doing this little webinar on a regular basis. So, pardon me again for the cough. So when you go to that link, you'll see that there's a couple of times that you can choose from. Sign up for whichever one's convenient for you. It's totally free. This is my gift to you. This is my way of helping the world do a better job at raising their kids. I'm sharing with you everything that I know through my 30 years of clinical experience to help you start to find peace in parenting. This doesn't have to be the ordeal that sometimes it turns out to be. There are solutions available. You guys, you've heard it. It's time to apply it. Let's go live on purpose. Okay, that's a wrap for the podcast. You get a little bonus material because you're here behind the scenes. And there's so much bonus material available. You know what's bubbling to the top for me? I always ask my guests, if I have a guest, what's bubbling to the top is the bonus material that you want to share with our guests behind the scenes here. I think the main thing that I want to tell you is that you're doing a good job. Sometimes you come up to these parenting topics, right? And you're feeling kind of beat up and kind of like you're not being the kind of parent that you wanted to be, or you're beating yourself up a little bit about the job that you're doing. Oh, pardon me again. I want you to hear this. You're doing a good job. You are a benevolent, generous, loving parent, which is why you are here, right? And I want you to hear that from me, because if you were not a good parent, you wouldn't care about this right now. And it's only good parents who are bothered by how they're parenting. I know that's a little weird and backwards in some ways, but I want you to hear that from me, because you may not be hearing it from yourself. You're certainly not hearing it from your kids, who might be screaming other messages at you. You're a good parent. It's not my job to make you a good parent. You already are. I want to bring to your awareness the tools and the resources that will help you to show up in a way that is closer to the way you pictured yourself being in the first place. And if I can help you with that, then mission accomplished. My hat goes off to you. Thank you for who you are and what you do. I hope you've found value in this today. If you have, will you please share it with someone who needs to have it? And jump in. Like I said, that free class is available to you, how to get your kids to listen without yelling. Go to liveonpurposeradio.com/stop yelling. And we'll get you right into the next one, or whichever one looks best. There's a schedule there, and you can see when they're coming live. And I'll join you there. I hope to see you there. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.